Hi, this is Trey Pastor. I'm going to do another reaction review to Mr. Nightmare story. This one is called 5 Nightmare-Inducing Sleep Paralysis Stories. I'm a big fan of Mr. Nightmare, so let's get my reaction review to this. I'll be right back. Okay, let me put my headphones in. Okay, here we go right now. Go. Sleep Paralysis Stories. Ooh. Hate those. Story 1.
Has anyone ever had sleep paralysis before? I tell you, it's one of the strangest, most fascinating, yet horrifying things that you could experience.
Exactly.
It's the feeling of being unable to move upon awakening. Your senses and awareness are intact, but you still feel as though you're in this half-asleep, half-awake state.
Yep.
I'd heard stories of this long before it happened to me. I've only experienced it once. I was in college. I was going through an incredibly tough time in my life. I was insanely stressed during finals week. I wasn't getting much sleep. It must have been the night before my last final. I went to bed late because I stayed up all night studying for bio. I don't remember at what point I decided to finally call it. I just remember it all becoming a blur, then blackness. Next thing I remember, I was in my room, in my bed, but there was this weird haziness in my awareness. Like I was awake, but I felt weaker. And when I tried to move, I couldn't. I could only move my eyes to look around the dark room. At one point, when I guess I was looking to one side of the room, I looked back to the center, and there was this woman standing dead center in the room, facing the bed.
Oh, boy.
She was wearing this black dress and holding some long object. I wanted to call out, "Mom?" My paralysis prevented it. I couldn't say anything. The woman came closer to me until she knelt down and touched my forehead. And I could feel it. She got eye to eye with me, and I could see my mother's face. I tried to say "Mom" again, desperately, but I was stuck in my own body. She stood back up and walked to the doorway before disappearing into the house. I lay there, unable to move, maybe another 10 to 20 seconds before my vision suddenly became more clear, and I was able to think more clearly as well. I was able to sit up. I jumped out of the bed, screaming "Mom" over and over. I ran to the bedroom hallway, yelling her name. A door opened down the hall, and someone came to hug me. But it wasn't my mom. It was my dad, telling me he misses her too. My mom died 3 weeks before this happened.
Story 2.
You know what I love about dreams? How vague and how bizarre they can be. You feel like you're in this separate world where things can just make no sense. Now, what about when that unearthliness transcends into the quote-unquote real world? You'll see what I mean in a minute. I was in REM sleep having this bizarre nightmare about being followed by some weird creature in the middle of the woods. The dream became fuzzy though, and I kind of woke up from it. I say kind of because while I was out of the dream and back in my bed, I couldn't move a muscle on my body. I started hearing this faint, weird noise. It was this indescribable, robotic, yet alive type sound. It started light and soft, but it repeated every 3 seconds. I noticed it was getting slightly louder every time. I felt like the sound was getting closer. It got so unbearably loud in my head, I just wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Then my eyes locked onto the closet door, specifically the crack in the closet door, which I never leave open, ever. There was this distorted face of a man looking between the crack, with this unhumanly large open-mouthed smile, and every time I heard the noise, it seemed as if the closet and the face were getting closer, until the closet door slammed shut, and everything went silent. I regained control of my body shortly after that, and the first thing I did, even though I was 24 years old, was run to my parents' room to get my dad to check the closet with me. There was nothing in the closet though, or the rest of my room. My dad seemed pretty confident that what I just experienced was sleep paralysis, and that he had experienced it once as well. Didn't make me feel any less disturbed about what I just went through.
Story 3.
Many years ago, I had a sleep paralysis experience. I knew there was a thing in my closet, something really evil, but I also knew I was dreaming and I should face my fear. I tried not to look directly at the closet door, but if I moved my eyes, my head would turn away. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't look directly at it. Then I woke up in a cold sweat. At first I felt really relieved that it was over, but very shortly I realized it wasn't a dream, and there was really something in the closet. I was laying on my back and couldn't move, and I didn't really hear it, but I could kind of feel the sickening laughter wash over me in waves, emanating from the closet. All of a sudden the thing throws a human head at me, and it lands on my chest face up. It was this girl I knew in high school. Up to this point I was kind of holding it together, terrified but not panicked. Well, I lose it now. I can't even scream. All I could do is make these grunting sounds and moaning noises. I'm wriggling and straining, trying to rock from side to side to get it off me, but I can't move. This seemed to last maybe another minute or two, and then I really woke up. It was so traumatic that for weeks I would be scared when I woke up that I wasn't actually awake, and something horrible could happen at any second. It still makes my skin crawl when I think about that laugh. The thing is, I never heard of sleep paralysis or night terrors at that point in my life. I thought I was losing my mind.
Story 4.
I've suffered sleep paralysis a total of 3 times in my life. The first 2 times, it just consisted of me waking up not being able to move my body. The third time was much different though. I had woken up very early morning, probably like between 5 and 6 a.m., when the sun was just starting to come up. There was light in the room, but barely any. I tried to move, but I had that unfortunately familiar feeling of paralysis, helplessness. My eyes fixated on the wall. There was nothing I could do. Then suddenly, I heard heavy footsteps coming up the stairs of my bedroom. It was my brother, followed by my sister, dad, and mom. They were all sobbing hysterically, and they all seemed to be at least a foot taller. It was unnerving. The 4 of them approached my bed, then stopped at the bedside, towering over me, all 4 of them crying. I couldn't move. I wanted to cry for help or just yell at them to stop because they were scaring me. Their heights, they looked like they were near to hitting the ceiling. Then, just as quickly as they entered, all 4 of them turned and walked back down the stairs. I could move again, and so I ran down the stairs to follow them, but they weren't in the outside area. I went to each of their rooms one at a time. All 4 of them were fast asleep. My heart was racing because the most surreal, unnerving thing just happened to me. I had to lean on the wall to gather my thoughts for a second, breathing heavily. Falling back asleep was futile the rest of the night. I lay awake until the sun was fully up. A few days later, I was struck by a speeding car when crossing the road with friends and ended up with 3 broken bones and a fractured thigh bone. I was hospitalized for a week, and at one point, all 4 of my family members stood next to my hospital bed, looking down at me, my mom being emotional and crying. It was almost the same image from my sleep paralysis. I'm not superstitious at all, but if I were, I would 100% believe that dream was some kind of sign, or some kind of prediction of the future. In fact, I just got chills writing that last sentence, thinking about it.
Story 5.
There was this one time I was out late drinking with friends. It was some point in the summer of 2016. We were kind of just walking around town and then around the neighborhood when one of my friends spotted someone hiding in a bush. He pointed and said, "Look," and we all walked a little closer to get a better look. We could see what he was talking about, but just barely. It was bizarre, like someone hiding in this bush in front of this house. When we got too close, apparently, this weird, off-putting sound started coming from the bush. So we all screamed and laughed and ran away. We screamed because it was scary, but laughed because at the same time it was bizarrely funny. And there were a lot of us, so... Anyway, we walked back to our houses respectively, assuming whoever was in that bush was just messing with people. I fell asleep pretty easily that night since I was drunk, but next thing I remember was waking up to the near pitch blackness of my room. I couldn't look at the clock to see what time it was because I literally couldn't move. I was in a sleep paralysis state. I looked around the room with my eyes only and started to hear a familiar noise. The noise we heard coming from that bush. Then I looked straight in front of me at the foot of my bed, and what I saw was pure nightmare fuel. It was what appeared to be this floating, grotesque, horrific head of a demonic ghost-like thing. As it got closer to me, I realized it wasn't floating. There was a body, but its body blended in with the blackness of the room. Its mouth hung open, and it just kept making the familiar noise from the bush. It got mere inches from my face before it suddenly just faded away, and I was able to let out a scream and move my body. I sat in my bed, panting and heart racing. I flicked on the lamp and checked around my bed, but that demonic thing was gone. What I just experienced seemed so real, like I was awake for it. It wasn't a dream. I told my parents about it the next day, and they agreed with me that it was sleep paralysis, though they had never heard of anyone seeing freaky shit like that before.
Oh boy. Oh. Those are some freaky stories. Freaky but good. Okay. Now, personally, I think I may have had a paralysis story once. I know I've had stuff where you have like a nightmare and you kind of try to force yourself to wake up because the nightmare is just so horrific that I literally scared to death. So I kind of have to try to force myself awake. I know that's happened to me a couple of times, or you're in the middle of a nightmare and it's just so horrific that you kind of force yourself to wake up and stuff. So you don't, and then you can't go back to sleep because I'd be afraid to go back to sleep because I'm afraid I'll go right back to the nightmare. So I try to, I stay awake because it's just that terrifying. And so that's why you got to be very careful about, certain dreams. Like I said, I don't know if I've had sleep paralysis. I think there've been times when I may have had it that I just don't remember, but I definitely know there's been times when I've had dreams of like the nightmares and you force yourself to wake up because it's like horrific because the dream is so freaking scary that you said, I can't be in this anymore. And I force yourself awake and then, stay awake. So, cause I'm too afraid to go back to sleep. But these stories were freaky. That one with the premonition of him getting hit by the car and just all the freaky things. And I've had moments, like I said, when you're in your car, not in your car, when you're in your bed, and sometimes, because I have my shirts hanging up, like if you see in the back, right over there, to the left of the Just League post there, my shirts are hanging up and, hanging up there in the dark. It looks like a person. And sometimes if I'm not paying attention or if I wake up in the middle of the night and I look over, it looks freaky to me because it looks like a big, tall person is just standing there, okay? So, which is why I don't look up that way. When I usually wake up, I usually, I usually wake up before my alarm goes off on my watch. And then I usually just get up without looking at, and then just, turn on the light real quick. But I know sometimes, it catches you when I look over there and it looks, or before I get ready to go to sleep and I look over there and it looks like, like a tall figure. It looks like just a tall, figure. And I can imagine having nightmares about that if I focus on it too much. But those are good stories. Like I said, sleep paralysis, that is a real thing. I know that happens and stuff. And I think I may have had it once or twice when I was younger, probably. But I definitely know I've had those stories where you have a nightmare and you just kind of force yourself awake because the nightmare is so scary and you're afraid to go back to sleep. That's definitely happened to me before. Anyway, let me know what you think of these 5 stories from Mr. Nightmare. I thought they were really good. And again, sleep paralysis is a freaky thing, okay, when you can't move and stuff. And I don't know if you ever had like a dream within a dream, like you had a dream and then you wake up and you're still dreaming and you think that you're awake, but you're still in a dream, and then you wake up again. I think that's happened to me a couple of times when I was younger, but I had a dream, then I woke up, I thought I woke up, and then I was still in the dream, and then I had to wake up again, and it totally freaked me out. That's happened to me. I don't know, that's probably happened to a lot of people too. And I think sleep paralysis is part of that too. Where where you have, where you have a nightmare and you wake up and then you're still, you're frozen because you're still in that dream and you see something freaky. So that's happened before. But I know I definitely had a dream where I wake up, or I think I'm waking up and then I'm still in a dream, and then I wake up, I wake up for real, and that totally freaks me out. I can't go back to sleep after that. So that's happened to me before. Anyway, let me know what you think of Mr. Nightmare. I love his stories. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description box so you can check it out for yourself. I also have links to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram. I also have a link to my other channel, Paul Views and Opinions. So you check that out as well. And this is Trey Pastor saying so long and take care.